Rachel Carter stared at the subject line of the email that had just popped up on her phone as she adjusted her black dress in the parking lot. Subject: Ari, termination of project access. Effective immediately. Her thumb hovered over the screen, frozen. She read it twice before it registered. This wasn't just another budget freeze or reshuffle. It was the formal notice that she'd been pulled off the Franklin account, the very project she'd built from the ground up over the last 14 months. No warning, no explanation, just a line stating the client would now be handled by a more dynamic team lead. Rachel already knew who that meant. Beth Connolly, the same junior analyst who used to shadow Rachel, ask for her workflow spreadsheets, borrow her phrasing for emails, now somehow promoted to client relationship head. It wasn't the first time something Rachel built had been handed to someone shinier, louder, or better connected. But today of all days, her sister's wedding, the timing felt like a deliberate slap. "Mommy, is my tie straight?" Her son Eli tugged at his collar from the back seat. He was 5, impossibly bright for his age, and the only person left in the world who made Rachel believe in unconditional love. She tucked her phone away and forced a smile. "It's perfect. You look like you could run the wedding yourself." As they walked into the hotel lobby, Rachel's heels echoed against the polished marble floor, her fingers gripping Eli's hand tightly. The Grand Harbor Hotel, nestled in the Boston suburbs, was the kind of place she and Michael, her late husband, had once dreamed of visiting on anniversaries. That dream had died with him in the crash, alongside so many others. Eli's eyes widened at the crystal chandeliers, the white orchids lining the halls. "Is this where the princess gets married?" Rachel chuckled softly. "Something like that." Just then, a voice shrilled across the room. "Rachel! Look at you! Oh my goodness, you've gotten so thin. Are you eating?" It was Aunt Louise, one of the many relatives who hadn't called, emailed, or visited in the last 3 years, but always showed up in pearls and judgment. Rachel gave the standard smile. "Nice to see you, Louise. You look well." Louise crouched to Eli's level. "This must be little Eli. You're the spitting image of your father." The words made Rachel flinch, but she hid it. Michael's name still twisted something deep inside her. More relatives filtered in, some warm, most distant. Rachel kept one eye on Eli, who clung close. Her mother, Helen, soon appeared, all grace and pearls, sweeping Eli into her arms. "I have something for you," Helen whispered. She handed him a small red sports car from a fancy boutique bag. "Because I know Mommy probably didn't have time for toys." The dig was subtle, but Rachel heard it. She forced herself to nod in thanks. "Did you notify the planner about Eli's allergy?" she asked. "Of course I did," Helen replied with a touch too much offense. "I'm not completely senile yet." Rachel nodded, unconvinced. Ever since Michael's death, her mother had become overbearing, showing love through guilt, concern through control. Rachel tolerated it for Eli's sake. Barely. The wedding ceremony itself was beautiful. Lily, her younger sister, looked radiant in a sleek white gown that glimmered under the floral arch. Rachel watched from her assigned seat in the 3rd row, not family row. Just Rachel. As always. The afterthought. Eli sat quietly beside her, clutching the red toy car. Rachel leaned down and kissed his head, whispering, "Just 2 more hours, buddy." When the reception began, they were guided to table 8, surrounded by extended family members who spoke in clipped tones and talked over her. Her stepfather, Frank, offered a cordial nod. He was always polite, but never warm. Across the room, Lily beamed, dancing with her new husband, Nathan, whose smile looked just a little too fixed. Dinner service was delayed, and Rachel noticed Eli growing restless. He rolled the toy car across the table, watching it bounce dangerously close to the edge. "Careful," she warned, but it was too late. The car dropped. Eli ducked under the linen-draped table in pursuit. Rachel sipped water, scanning the room, half listening to a story about someone's dog's diet. "Mommy?" Eli's voice was quiet, shaky. Rachel leaned down. "Did you find your car, honey?" Eli crawled out from under the table, clutching both the toy car and something else, a folded piece of paper. He handed it to her. "What's this?" "I found it near Grandma's bag." Rachel opened the note. Handwritten in neat script were the words, "Table 8. Add shrimp to main dish. Don't worry about allergies. H." Rachel's stomach dropped. The edges of her vision blurred for a second. Eli couldn't eat shrimp. Even traces caused anaphylaxis. It was the one instruction she gave everyone, over and over. And this was written by her mother. "Mommy, are we going to die?" Eli's voice cracked. Rachel pulled him into her lap, heart pounding. She looked around the table. Helen laughed at something Frank said, utterly unbothered. Had she planned this? Why? And then it clicked. The $2.4 million insurance policy, still under Rachel's control until Eli came of age. But if something happened to her, Helen would become guardian, legal access, full control. She held Eli tighter. Her voice came out flat. "We're leaving." Across the table, Helen glanced over. "What's wrong? Dinner's almost here." Rachel didn't answer. She stood, lifting Eli into her arms. "We're done here." Helen stood too. "Rachel, don't make a scene." Rachel turned slowly and looked directly at her. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned. "You should have picked another table. If you've ever been overlooked after giving everything you had, type 1. You're not invisible here." Rachel Carter stared at the note in her trembling hand, the words burning into her mind like acid. Table 8. Add shrimp to main dish. Don't worry about allergies. H, as in Helen, her mother. Her brain scrambled for another explanation. Maybe the note was old. Maybe it wasn't her handwriting. Maybe this was all just some cruel misunderstanding. But she knew her mother's penmanship. Clean, deliberate loops, the kind of handwriting forged in a classroom over decades of teaching. The final H was as familiar as a fingerprint. Rachel could see it in every childhood birthday card, every passive-aggressive note Helen had left on her fridge in recent years. But this one wasn't about snacks or laundry. This was about shrimp, and her son Eli's severe allergy. "Mommy," Eli whispered, his voice shaky, "you said shrimp makes me sick, right?" Rachel looked into her son's wide, frightened eyes. "Yes, baby, very sick, but it's okay. You didn't eat any. We're going to fix this." Around her, the reception buzzed with joy. Silverware clinked, guests laughed, glasses clinked under chandeliers. Lily, her sister, was now dancing with her new husband Nathan, all white silk and curated bliss. None of them knew what Rachel now held in her hand. She turned sharply to the waiter passing their table. "Excuse me, can you tell me what's being served at table 8 for the children's meal?" He blinked, surprised. "Yes, ma'am. I believe it's grilled chicken with pasta and a side of—" He paused, checking his notepad. "Shrimp bites." Her heart froze. "No, that's not what we requested. My son has a life-threatening shellfish allergy. I informed the planner and the chef days ago." I'm sorry," the waiter stammered. "This is what's on the updated printout." Rachel didn't scream. She didn't cry. She placed a hand on Eli's shoulder and said very calmly, "We need to go." But just as she stood up to leave, a too familiar voice floated over her shoulder. "Is everything all right, Rachel?" Helen asked, still holding her champagne glass. A placid smile fixed to her face. Rachel turned. "We're leaving." "Why? Dinner hasn't even been served yet," Helen said with that faux concerned tone that always meant she knew more than she let on. "Eli's probably just tired." Rachel stared at her mother for a long, unnerving beat. Then she slowly unfolded the note and held it up. "Did you write this?" she asked, her voice low but sharp. Her hand trembled, but her stare didn't waver. Helen's smile faltered. "What is that?" "You tell me," Rachel snapped, stepping closer. "Because it looks a hell of a lot like your handwriting. It also looks like a potential death sentence for my son." Helen's eyes darted to the note. Her face went pale. "Rachel, Answer me. Did you tell the kitchen to add shrimp to his dish?" The chatter at nearby tables dulled, eyes slowly turning toward them. Helen's mouth opened, then closed. "Let's talk about this privately." "Oh, now you want privacy? After you tried to feed my 5-year-old something that could have killed him?" Rachel's voice rose, hands shaking now. Not from fear, but fury. Rachel, you're being hysterical. Don't you dare gaslight me, she snapped. Do you think I wouldn't find out? You were hovering all day, asking if I felt dizzy, if I was tired, if I was drinking enough water. What were you planning, Mom? A scene? An accident? Or were you hoping I'd collapse so you could take over as Eli's guardian and access his trust? Helen's mouth parted, but no words came out. And then, quietly, almost too quietly, Rachel added, I've already spoken to my lawyer. Do you know what a preemptive guardianship audit looks like, Helen? Across the room, Lily noticed the disturbance. Her perfectly curled hair bounced as she rushed over, heels clicking frantically. Rachel? What the hell is going on? You're making a scene on my wedding day. Rachel turned to face her sister. You want to know what's going on? Read this. She shoved the note into Lily's hands. Lily's eyes scanned the paper. Her smile collapsed. Is this Mom? Rachel nodded slowly. Apparently, keeping Nathan's secrets cost more than just money. Lily shook her head in disbelief. This can't be happening. Oh, it is, Rachel said coldly. And if any of you thought I was too exhausted to fight back, you've miscalculated. Helen finally found her voice. Rachel, please, we can talk about this somewhere else. You never meant to get caught, Rachel cut in. Guests were openly watching now, forks suspended mid-bite. A hushed tension crept over the room. I'm done, Rachel said. You can keep your wedding, your secrets, and your fantasy life with a man who's neck-deep in debt, but you don't get us. She bent down and picked up Eli, cradling him against her chest. Helen took a shaky step forward. Rachel, he's my grandson. No, she said, voice like ice. He's my responsibility, and you just made sure you'll never be in the same room as him again. If you've ever had to protect someone you love from your own family, type 2, you're not alone. Rachel sat stiffly on the edge of the velvet couch in the hotel's private lounge, Eli curled tightly in her lap. The reception's laughter and clinking glasses were now muffled behind the heavy door. Lily paced furiously, still in her wedding dress, the hem graying slightly from brushing the carpet. Her foundation was cracking, both literally and emotionally. Helen Carter stood across the room, her hands clasped so tightly her knuckles had turned white. For once, she didn't try to fill the silence with charm or control. She just looked small. I want the truth, Rachel said, her voice low but cutting. And I want it now, because if you don't give it to me, I will walk out of here, file a restraining order by midnight, and make sure the police get a copy of that memo before sunrise. Helen let out a long, brittle breath and looked at her daughters. I never meant for things to go this far, she whispered. You wrote a note telling the kitchen to add shrimp to my child's food, Rachel snapped. You meant for something to happen. Start there. Helen looked at Eli, who refused to look back, and her lip quivered. Then, finally, she sat down. It was about Michael's life insurance, she said softly. Rachel froze. After he died, Helen continued, you were listed as guardian, and Eli as beneficiary. But the structure, it left a lot of control in your hands, and if something happened to you, I'd become guardian. I know, Rachel said. That was the point. In case something happened, the funds would still be secure. Helen looked up, ashamed. Secure for whom? Rachel blinked. For Eli, obviously. Helen pressed her hands over her eyes. There's something you don't know about Lily's marriage. Lily stopped pacing. What do you mean? Helen turned to her. Nathan's company, it's bankrupt. He didn't tell you because he wanted the wedding to go forward, but he's in debt. Deep debt. Millions. Lily's face went pale. That's not possible. He just bought us a condo in Cambridge. He drives a Tesla. On borrowed time, Helen said. He came to me 3 months ago, asked me to help him cover up the losses, said if I didn't, he'd walk away, end the engagement. I thought... Her voice broke. I thought if I helped him settle his debt, you could still have the future you wanted. Rachel's stomach turned. So your solution was... kill me? No. Not kill, Helen insisted. Just incapacitate. Something temporary. Just long enough to become Eli's guardian. Long enough to gain access. I thought I'd handle the shrimp thing as a mild reaction, get him to the ER, and while you were exhausted or sedated, I'd convince you to sign temporary guardianship. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was desperate. You were going to exploit my grief to transfer guardianship, Rachel said coldly. Over a child. Over my child. Helen looked down. You don't understand the pressure I was under. Nathan showed me the legal documents. He had contracts, promissory notes. There were investors circling him. I thought if I didn't act, Lily's entire marriage would collapse before it began. Then it should have, Rachel spat. Because no marriage based on extortion is worth saving. Lily finally found her voice. Wait, you helped Nathan cover up fraud? Helen hesitated. Not directly, but I signed an agreement to help him repay some debts, under the condition I'd get access to Eli's trust through guardianship. He told me it would just be for a few months. He said no one would get hurt. Rachel's mouth parted in disbelief. No one would get hurt? Eli almost ingested something lethal. Do you realize what kind of trauma you've already caused? Lily sat down beside Rachel, stunned. He told me his firm was thriving, that he made 6 figures last quarter. Rachel laughed bitterly. You really believed that? You married a man after 6 months and signed a joint asset clause before vetting his finances? I didn't know, Lily said, eyes glossing with tears. That's your favorite line, Rachel said, turning toward her. You didn't know when Mom sent you on that summer trip while I stayed back to clean the house. You didn't know when I took the blame for your broken iPad. And you didn't know your fiancé was bankrupt and manipulating our mother into trying to poison my son. Lily blinked. Rachel. No. You don't get to Rachel me right now, she said, standing up, Eli still in her arms. I'm done being the quiet one, the one who plays it safe. I've been cleaning up this family's mess since I was 14, and I've had enough. Helen stood too, panic rising in her voice. Please don't take Eli away from me. I made a mistake. I'll apologize. I'll fix it. Rachel looked her mother straight in the eye. Fix it, she whispered. There's no fixing the fact that my son found the note that was meant to hurt him. He knows who wrote it, and so do I. Eli buried his face in her shoulder, too young to understand all the legal and financial subtext, but old enough to understand betrayal. Rachel stepped toward the door. Wait, Lily said. What am I supposed to do? Rachel paused. Her voice came out low and final. You'll figure it out. But one thing's for sure. You don't build a life with someone who marries you for your family's money. Lily's chin trembled. Rachel looked at Helen one last time. You should pray I don't press charges, because if I do, your elegant reputation and your retirement pension will be the least of your worries. If someone you trusted once put you second for their own survival, type 3, you deserve better, and so does your future. The email came on a quiet Tuesday morning in Portland, Oregon, 2 months after Rachel had uprooted her life, cut ties with her family, and started over. Subject: SEC investigation into Weston Capital, client notification required. Rachel blinked at the screen. SEC, Weston Capital, client notification. She clicked. The body of the email was even worse than the subject line. In light of ongoing fraud investigations into Mr. Nathan Weston and his former investment fund, all accounts associated with Weston Capital are now under federal review. If you or any family members were financially connected, you may be contacted for a deposition. Rachel pushed her chair back. The breath left her lungs like she'd been punched. Nathan, the man Lily had married under champagne lights and fraudulent pretenses. The man whose debt spiral had set off a chain of choices that nearly cost Eli his life. She looked across the small apartment to where Eli sat on the floor, building a Lego spaceship. Their new home was modest, rented furniture, creaky floors, thin walls, but it was safe, and hers, and quiet. Eli looked up. Mommy, do you think my ship can fly to the moon? Rachel smiled faintly, swallowing the swirl of bitterness rising in her throat. I think with you as the pilot, it could go anywhere. She closed the laptop slowly. Later that night, she took Eli to the small neighborhood park, bundled in his favorite blue hoodie. The autumn wind was crisp, rustling leaves across the sidewalk. Other kids played tag or screamed from the swings, but Eli, always the quiet one, sat beside her on the bench, spinning his red toy car in small loops. A woman with kind eyes sat down on the opposite bench, watching a little girl play in the mulch. "Is that your son?" Rachel nodded. "Yes. That's Eli. He's very sweet. My daughter's name is Ava." She paused, smiling. "I haven't seen you here before." "We just moved," Rachel said, careful, cautious. "From the East Coast." The woman nodded. "Well, if you ever need anything, people around here are kinder than they look. It's a small town, but we show up for each other." Rachel nodded slowly. That wasn't something she was used to. In Boston, smiles came with agendas. At home, even kindness was currency. She looked over at Eli. He was talking to Ava now, shyly offering her his toy car. The woman said, "Your son's braver than he looks." Rachel blinked back unexpected tears. "He is." Later that evening, while washing dishes in the dim kitchen light, she saw the unopened letters again. 3 envelopes, all from her mother. Same handwriting, same Massachusetts return address. She hadn't opened a single one. She didn't need to. She dropped them into the trash. The next morning, as she sipped coffee beside the window, a headline caught her eye in the local paper. "Weston fraud scheme unravels. Dozens of investors affected." Beneath it, Nathan's face, older now, without the charm of the wedding photos, stared back, dead-eyed. The article detailed his bankruptcy, the lawsuits, the investors he'd misled. The fraud spanned 5 years and multiple shell companies. A smaller column mentioned the swift annulment of his marriage to Lily Carter, filed just 8 weeks after their wedding. No further comment from the bride. Rachel folded the paper in half and laid it beside her coffee. She felt nothing. No joy. No vindication. Only a hollow kind of closure. Eli padded into the room with bedhead and a blanket draped over his shoulder. "Mommy, do you think Grandma misses us?" Rachel knelt down beside him, pulling him close. "I think she misses the version of us she could control." "Will we ever see her again?" She hesitated. "Maybe someday. But not now. Right now we're building something new, just us." Eli nodded like he understood. Later that week, she received a voicemail from Lily, the first contact since the hotel. "Rachel, I know you won't call back. I don't blame you. But I wanted to say I didn't know everything. I was blinded. By charm. By pressure. By fear. I wanted a perfect life, and instead I nearly destroyed yours." A pause. "I filed for divorce. I'm living alone now. I've started seeing a therapist. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope you're okay. I hope Eli's okay." Rachel saved the message, but didn't respond. The past didn't deserve access to her present. Not anymore. One chilly Sunday, she and Eli went to a small diner near the edge of town. It wasn't fancy. It smelled like syrup and burnt toast. But there was a booth in the corner under a framed photo of the moon landing. Eli liked that spot. They ordered pancakes and orange juice, just the two of them. Eli placed his red car on the table between them. "Can this be our new table?" he asked. Rachel smiled. "It already is." And for the first time in a long time, she believed it. If you've ever walked away from a toxic legacy and built something small, but real, type 4, you deserve peace more than applause.